Land by Geetanjali Shree. Translated by Daisy Rockwell.
37. It's night time, if it's dark outside. Pitch black darkness. A few stray lights along the street, and all the houses are wrapped in stillness. The world sleeps. One has to go up the hill to mourn. The path is rough. There are knotted ropes attached to nails along the cliffs. The ropes swing in the breeze. He has to cling to them to pull himself up. Every time he grabs the rope and it swings, it feels like it's breaking. And what if I fall? Like Sputnik. At one point he grabs the rope, but it turns out to be a branch. He's petrified. His feet stumble into a rock in the evening breeze. It's inky dark, so how could he know? But he has to go up, to mourn. He keeps climbing, grasping the rope so his body can hang on, and he climbs upwards, and suddenly a walking stick comes to hand. Now it makes a click, click, click sound, and Bade begins falling through the air like a cold of earth. I'm finished. He screams as he tears at the air. Then he takes off like a rocket, but in the opposite direction, down. The scream stays up. Voiceless, he wraps himself around the stick as it descends rapidly. But it isn't a stick, it's the cane. Where had it been that it suddenly landed in his hands? Click, 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 click. It unfolds. Amma is sitting in a bush. Did she hand it to him? As he falls, Bade tries to see if it's the same cane. Butterflies fly up. By God, the very one. Golden. Up. He reaches out his hands and kicks hard in the air with his legs, trying to grab hold of something he could use to pull himself up towards the bush. He falls into his bed and it feels like an earthquake rising beneath him. His eyes open. He is kicking his legs in the air like a child. Gas shoots from his belly like a gun. He panics and looks next to him. His wife is sleeping obliviously. He has become Bade again. He gets up quietly and goes to stand by the window. Outside it is dark, because this happened at night. Lights shine in some homes and on the street, carving up the emptiness. Everyone is asleep. How can this be? He wonders with a pang. When his wife's hand touches his shoulders, he turns. She is standing behind him. She wasn't asleep after all. His face wet with tears. Are the broken shards of his heart scattered on his face? Who knows? Blackest night. I'll be right back, he says, laying aside his wife's hand. I'll come too, says his wife, pulling a dressing gown over her nightie. They walk out of the house, unsure whether on a mission to lose or to find. Not out the front door, but the back, onto the lawn, secretly, silently. Even the shrubbery stands quietly because there isn't a hint of breeze. Because she became bedridden. Amma had berated the gardener over how much to water each plant. Amma would pick up the hose herself because those leaves must be bathed, but only water the roots of those one. If you pour water on top, the leaves will break. They are just little babies. Where's the hose? His wife looks around by the bushes, as though it will appear in the dark. The two of them open the gate and go out. Amma had once fallen at this gate and been found on the ground, alone, laughing. The gardener for the neighborhood plot outside had helped her up and brought her gingerly back to the house. Mataji had fallen over, he said. She was laughing as though these two were the same thing. The doctor examined her to make sure there were no internal injuries. There were none. Afterwards, he told Bade that no one lets cataracts harden anymore. Nowadays, they don't wait. They just do laser surgery to take the whole things out. Her vision must have been hazy and she lost her footing on the step. It diminishes self-confidence. Please schedule the procedure. But why were you laughing? Bade had asked her. So she laughed again and said, because I was hurting, son, at which Bade fixed her with a reproachful look. Array, how foolishly I slipped, interjected Ma, at which the birdie's gaze grew even sterner, as if to ask, really? Is there any intelligent way to slip? And then Amma said, Array, son, I was bleeding, and no one could hear, and the two of you were at wedding, so I started to cry. But you weren't crying, you were laughing. That's right. I thought I was done for, or on my way out. So why should I cry on my way out? I'll just go laughing. Just then, Nattu the gardener saw me. He was coming back from the mosque. She'll probably laughing when we find her. The thought occurred to him. But she didn't forget her glasses, did she? One pair is here, but there was another pair. Let's look in the house and find out, thinks Buddy, as he levels out the rocks and gravel so there will be no danger for tripping. Night time. The air slumbers. The trees stand about forlornly. Two bodies emerge on the street for a walk. Throughout the neighborhood and beyond, they peer between the tree trunks, branches, roots, shrubs, into ditches, under culverts, down lanes, alleys, all of which they have already searched in the broad light of day with a veritable army, as though that which was invisible in the light of day will suddenly manifest clearly in the dark of night. The night, so dark, it's cloaked in a sheet of black, and here and there small heaps of darkness seem to appear. Something could emerge from any one of these heaps. Some fragment, some shard, might wink or sparkle. 38. Amma, Bahu blurted out. She looked quickly to see if Buddy had heard, eyes opened or shut, neither sleeping nor waking. He lay beside her. It's the clock, he said. Tick, 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 tick. Who knows why Bahu thought it wasn't the clock she had heard, but the tick, 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 tick of Amma's heart. It was Amma's clock. Buddy had brought it for her from abroad, and it always hung opposite her bed, stuffed into a nest, constructed of plastic straw and twigs. There were two eggs crammed in with it, and a bluebird, wings outstretched to fly. The nest was fixed on the wall like a mirror. Just yesterday, Bahu had taken it from Amma's room and hung it up in their room opposite their bed, because the one in there had already been packed. And anyway, Amma, she found herself staring at it like a criminal. Could that be the sound of Amma scolding her? With a tick, 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 tick. Bahu slipped into the bathroom. She had been feeling strange ever since she had put the phone down that night, when her son, after getting the update, had shifted topics and said, Ma, what are you talking about? It's not like someone can just disappear into thin air. Look carefully. She must be there. She wasn't getting up at all, and now she's run away. How absurd. Where could she go even? Look carefully. Maybe some alien shot her with rays and captured her and hauled her into outer space. Or maybe a goddess made her invisible. He babbled all manner of improbable scenarios at her. Hush! She shook her head. It's hardly possible for someone to be there one minute, gone the next, unless you have enemies and some crook. She panicked. She couldn't allow Bade to hear the things coming into her head. Otherwise, or abduction or ransom. Oh my! Why would anyone put Amma through such suffering? The poor thing's pushing 80. There must be some decency left in this world. Of course, one always hears tales about people being there one minute, gone the next. And then who knew if they were alive or. She felt fearful again. Bade was nearby. He would kick up just a fuss at her for thinking such things, as if she actually wanted her to. No one will believe me. No one ever does. She felt tearful. I set her room up so nicely, so everything would be easy for her. A thermos for hot water, a small player for her music. It's not my fault if she won't play it. A bouquet. I even had a TV installed and said, you could just watch the news. I was the one who thought of all the special touches, not him. These people installed a potty shower next to the potty on the left side. I switched it over to the right so she could pick it up with her right and use it more comfortably. He always thinks big, and he thinks that's what makes him biggest. Bade. His sister even put up that depressing dark abstract painting right across from the bed by Ram Kumar or some other Kumar. Who knows what would horrify you the moment you looked at it? I was the one who shifted it over to the side and put up a nature scene so she would feel cheered by the view. Jungle, bird, river. You would feel like getting up when you saw that. But even that was interpreted as me trying to make my sister in law look bad. If it weren't for my son, I would have run off long ago. It's for his sake I soldier on. I tend to her every need. I get up at night and peer in to make sure all is well, but the rest of them just show up and cry, Amma, Amma. And that makes them feel like they are the ones doing everything. They have turned Amma into an excuse. My son is right to ask, is it a dharmshala you are running or a household? My home has never been my own. He invited whomever he wished. When did anyone ever listen to me? Bas, enough is enough, my son says. Now think about yourself for a change and leave others for themselves. But how? I'm so upset here. And even so, people keep asking me how she could have disappeared with you there. Does anyone actually disappear that way? No one believed that her heart was pounding with fear too. Sometimes overseas son fretted on the phone and said, Ma, look after yourself. There are lots of people helping, but ultimately you are the one taking care of things. If something happened to you, everything would go belly up. Her husband is a lion on the outside, but timidly personified inside. His nickname was Mickey Mouse in school, Amma had told her. She told Bahu that now she's gone off somewhere. But where? Bahu relieved herself and began washing her hands, and as she scrubbed and scrubbed, her hands disappeared in soap bubbles. Was Amma washing her hands the same way right now? Her hands must be totally covered in soap, and she must be starting to rub them together, and maybe her hands were getting rinsed down the drain along with the soap. Had Amma started and looked down at her arms and found they were fading away before her very eyes, as when a colored photograph begins to fade away and vanishes completely? She must be frightened. She must have looked in the mirror and found no one there, at which Bahu grew fearful and looked in the mirror. But she was still there. She laughed lightly, but the laugh felt more like a sob. Perhaps a supernatural force has indeed arrived. Had it made Ma invisible and run off with her? Or maybe she is still sitting right here, laughing at me. She must be right there somewhere. Her son had said furiously on the phone. Bahu panicked and looked all around her. Is she? Amma, she called out softly, but then she came to her senses. Or else some other planet had snatched her. After all, what do we know about the cosmos? We were all rushing about this way and that, and she was lying asleep. It would have been easy to shoot rays at her and use them to imprison her and carry her to outer space. The impossible things her son had suggested to her in his rage, they all seemed possible now. She progressed from laughter to weeping. Had such a thing ever happened before in the world? Had anyone just got up one day and never returned? Oh Lord, where is Buddy? If he even heard this. A writer went out for a walk one day and is still missing to this day, leaving his family suspended between hope and hopelessness. A child was playing with a ball. The ball got lost. He went behind a bush to get it back and was never seen again. Netaji also disappeared and was seen somewhere in the guise of a renunciant, or maybe not. And there was a husband who went out to get pan, never to return. Alam Sahib, remember him? His sister's husband went off to Pakistan saying he would be back to get her. And ever since then, she has become Intizar Begum, a lady of perpetual waiting. Bahu came quickly out of the bathroom. She opened up the cabinet, picked out a sari, thought, why did I pick this? The moment she picked it, this was from Amma. She had said, this feels heavy to me. You wear it. But why was that the one I reached for? When she got it out, she noticed it still had the price tag stuck to it, that it was half scraped off, the price missing. Just the word Bethany remained. It seemed to her as though someone had half torn it off. But why? I didn't do it. It's a mystery. Someone else did it. And then she gazed all around again. Amma, Bahu blurted out. The clock was tick, tick, ticking. Amma's clock. Oh Lord, what are these things I'm imagining? She shook herself. For a moment she wanted to go back to Bare's side, lie against his back and close her eyes. But they had spent so many years fretting and fuming at one another that was now the most comfortable way to interact. If she did something affectionate, they would both be embarrassed. Get yourself out of here. She pulled on her Reeboks and picked up her bag. What must be done must be done. On her way back, she would get guavas. It makes all the difference if you pick them out yourself. As she began walking slowly along, it seemed like everything was getting lighter. Her mood was getting lighter with every step. Lighter, lighter, lighter. She was becoming lighter, fading, now just outlined. And then Bahu was at the door. Betty was entering. The two of them sort of looked at each other. The door felt a tad bewildered. The one who had left was entering, and the housewife from inside was going out. And then they both continued forward, keeping their fear to themselves. 39. Betty began to want to be frightened. She was feeling sad, which was natural, because she had woken up in the middle of the night. Is this any time to be awake, when there's still a shiver in the air and the night is still dark? How can it be so dark, she thought in a huff, when the moon is so close to full? Surrounded by shadows, it sparkles like a tiny sequin. Scattered a little, that's not magical, but ghostly. A light in which everything shifts, nothing is solid anymore. As though a witch had plucked up the entire housing society and stuffed it into a net and placed it on her smoky, billowing shoulders and walked through the night as the houses shivered, the trees drooped, and the shrunken fragments of garden peered out anxiously. Badminton courts, flower beds, chowkidar cabins too. The entirety suspended in the middle of her net, wriggling claws protruding, as if wondering, how will we land on the ground? Will we be able to stand again? Amma would have told her it was the 11th day, lunar moon, guessed Betty as she looked up. And was it the thought that was ghostly, or the moon, or was it she herself, as she walked along dejectedly outside in the society? Best to think of it like this. Somehow everything had got messed up, and like the debate over 13 hours or 13 days or 13 weeks or months, no one could sort out the jumble, and no one could tackle the tangle of her memories. Because now it had become like those childhood nights that just wouldn't end, and Bare and Betty were sitting up all night. The month of Chet will only come once Phagun is over. Rub your eyes, put on a sweater or jacket while still asleep. Go outside. Outside there are preparations for the Holika bonfire, which drives the drowsiness from our eyes, and we run out hoping we might find twigs and branches in the bushes, or maybe one of the neighbors has left out a staff, a club, a cane, so we can grab it and throw it in the Holika. And we stare as hard as we can, looking in every direction, which makes our eyes sting and water. But Manturi is a bit too alert. He had done all the sweeping while everyone was sleeping, and you won't even find a single straw now. Forget a branch. How will we throw things in now? She worries, superimposing the holika of her childhood onto the gathering and piling of sticks and branches for the bonfire in the badminton court of the current society. Better think of running around in front or in back of the flats where you might find stuff, only it might not be a staff but a cane, a golden cane, swathed in colorful butterflies, and then pick it up and fling it hard into the fire for the hunt, like it's a javelin and not a cane, and the butterflies will flutter fearfully, and body and soul all will burn so bright, this night will no longer feel ghostly. She started to wish the bonfire would ignite and make everyone's claims go up in flames. That cane that had needlessly disturbed their sleeping ma. Scream to Bhadari, and he will come jumping out of the night, head and mouth hidden in his gamcha, at which the black dog sleeping beneath the street light will start barking. The dark has swallowed up Bhadari's face and body, and a wrapped gamcha atop an empty garment walks towards you all by itself. He is the one who will light the bonfire. But what's this mix up she has started? Her childhood Bhadri hasn't even seen this badminton court. It was Manturi who swept it. Nor are the street light and dog here, and the cane has gone missing with Ma. She wished she could release an ear-splitting scream, a cry to bind together houses, shrubberies, pathways, the dark shapes of night that would search out hidden things without any effort. Did she scream? That's why we are sitting here with arms folded. The time has come to set the spark to ignite the wood on the bonfire. And then Amma will hand us green chana kernels so we can roast them in the fire, and then we'll come back. And we'll find the cots all set up out in the courtyard starting today, and we'll sleep for the rest of the night till morning. And what would they care about the cane as they lay there? And then we'll get up and play holy. We'll splash the water yellow with the tesu flowers. Just then garlands of laburnum appeared to her swinging from the trees and clad in the colors of night. And she felt angry. No holy dyes can be made from these. They only swing down before you in order to mislead. Burn this too. Rip it up by its outstretched roots. Her beating heart burned. The phone rang and a voice echoed across the ocean. A voice which sided against her, and she wasn't being spoken to. But she heard. Mom! No, Mom, don't do anything to raise your blood pressure. Think very carefully. Let her children do something too. Put an ad in the paper. Isn't her daughter a writer or something? She always shows up with her posse. Now let her show her power. And didn't they behave badly towards her? You never even raised your voice with her, but her son and daughter only speak in growls. Remember how they even scolded grandfather. One understands better from a distance. When you live close by, you feel smugly convinced you're doing everything. I'm the one sitting far away. I'm the one who thinks of bringing her favorite things. Anger boiled up in her. Let their phones ring. Go back in the house. Let the holika burn when it will, and let the witchy night fade away. And I'll go in the dark of night to Buddy's house. Let's get cracking. How can we sleep now? Let's get our act together and find her. And let's see, who knows? Maybe Ma has crept back to sleep in her own bed. But there's no courtyard for Amma to have the beds made up outside. That's what she doesn't like about sleeping there. No, 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 poor thing. So tiny. Just hold out your hand, she'll climb into it, like that little bird that Buddy captured in the dark when we were children. No, no, I won't hold it. I cried and I ran. But Buddy came rushing after me and opened my hand and put the bird in. The bird fluttered like my heart, which began to sink, and then it died right there in my hand. And I couldn't let it drop, but I couldn't hold on it either. It died, was killed. Who killed it? Will we ever be able to rise above the guilt? And how inconsiderate are our own people who scream about this one, scream about that one. Don't worry about money. Call any time, I'm here for you. And they are shouting close by, shouting far off, and even shouting in the phone. Let the mobile ring, Betty grumbled in her thoughts. But why did Buddy press the bird into my hand so it could die? Or so it would die. And he could say I had killed it. And she took the phone out of her waistcoat pocket and held on to it in just the same way she had held the bird he had handed her in childhood. So she wouldn't drop it. But she wouldn't hold on to it either. And the bird kept fluttering, ceaselessly fluttering. Her phone was ringing in vibration mode. It kept humming buzz, Pick up, say hello. How does one say hello? For a moment she forgot. 40. Anything we say about the Mahabharata could also be said about families. They contain all that exists in the world, and whatever they don't contain doesn't exist, not even in the imagination of a poet. That is, the gone astray terrorist, the hot headed leftist, the female and the feminist, the everythingist and the opti-pessimist, all in the family, or in the Mahabharata, whichever you prefer. The world is in the Mahabharata, the world is in the family, and thus the Mahabharata is in the family. The daily flare-ups, each one a Mahabharata. For this reason, every member of the family knows that what exists in me exists in no one else, and what does not exist in me has no call to exist. And that I have the brain, others have the money, and that everyone has taken advantage of me, so from now on, I won't do anything, let the rest of them do it. And that I am the most tender-hearted despite living far away, while you are right here, yet so completely inconsiderate. And I am always the giver, and you are always the taker. And wow, your wheeling dealings are just because you are such a friendly soul. But if I do the same, I'm cold and calculating. When you are quiet, you are polite. But when I'm quiet, I'm wily. If you did it, it's good etiquette. If I do, it's fawning flattery. If you say it, it's candid. If I do, it's just rude. If I ask, it's obscene curiosity. When you do, it's sympathy. If I do it, it's for my own convenience. If you do it, you're most beneficent. If I do it, I'm being stingy. If you do it, you're being thrifty. If I'm quiet, I'm acting proud. If you are quiet, you feel bashful. I'm extremely secretive, but you are just reserved. And my fashions are false, whereas yours are cutting edge. And if I lose something, what's the big deal? But if you do, you have been robbed. Woe is me. And if I do something, it amounts to nothing. But your merest intention of doing something amounts to actually doing it. That is, I am what I have done. You are what you have thought. And what I said was scornful, but when you said it, it was just a joke. When I said my piece, I was being a show off, but when you had your say, it was the unvarnished truth. And if I got it, I grabbed it. But if you got it, it was your right. And if I said it, I was deluded. But if you said it, you were just right. And when I get angry, I am humorless. But when you do, it's self-respect. And when I went and did it, it was my duty. But when you did, it was big of you. And when I'm successful, I got help from you. But when you are unsuccessful, it was me who threw a spanner in the works. And if I get stuck, I'm a slacker. But if you get stuck, you blew my chances. And oh, yes, if I don't get it, I'm a moron. But if you don't, you are innocent. And oh, yes, if you are enemies with me, I deserve it. But if I am with you, I'm jealous. And oh, yes, if I did it, I'm self serving. If you did, you are self effacing. And if I don't do it, it's carelessness. But if you don't, it's helplessness. And however much I have done is not enough, and whatever little you did is plenty. And if my nose is crooked, it's ugly. And if your eye is crooked, it's artistic. And oh, yes, if I look good in a picture, the photographer was gifted. But if you look good, it's because you are beautiful. And oh, yes, if I'm fair, I look like a skinned quail. And if you are pale, you look like a foreigner. If I'm dark, I'm Mr. Eggplant Head. Whereas when you do, black is beautiful. If I'm fat, I'm Tubby Tupkins. If you're fat, you're pleasingly plump. If I am thin, I'm dry as a stick. If you are skinny, you are svelte and shapely. And if I turn on the AC, I'm a decadent. But if you do, you suffer from delicate health. When I drink, I'm a drunk. When you drink, doctor's orders. If I speak in English, I'm giving myself airs. If you do, you're educated. Oh, and if you need it, we are all one big family. But when I need it, you're separate and alone. If I'm polite, it's pretentious. If you are, it's pedigree. If I live by the fruits of my labor, I'm a crude drudge. But when you cling like a leech, it's a cultural custom. And yes, your work is the bee's knees, but mine's a hobby, if you please. Family and my own decency have destroyed me. Otherwise, I would have been like you, director, professor, officer. All right then, you're not me, because you don't want to be me, but I am not you since I could never be you. I'm responsible, dutiful. My city has been highly cultured for centuries, whilst you choose to talk on and on about some recent gundas and give it a bad name. Aji, once we have become a great civilization, we'll be forever free to go any which way. And how can you carry on about the disrespect, rape, and casting out of women, when this is the land where Gargi once beat Yagyavak and Mandan Mishra's wife beat Shankaracharya? Why do you see only cow dung and crap where Radha once danced, and Ganga descended from Shiva's locks? Yes and no, no and yes. Me and you and me, and you and I and Amma, and we did so much, and you were with her, but you didn't see, and the poor thing grew older, and she lay there and alone and didn't even know what she was doing, and she is even forgotten and inventing some imaginary names, and her memory is clearly affected, and everyone went running. 41. Those who came running were also in a state of confusion, or were soon to be. Take Beti, for instance. Night, day, childhood, now sleeping, waking, Manturi, Bhadari, down is up and back is front. All these things had already taken place in her brain. Inside disorder, everything a mixed up mishmash. The brain had slipped into the ankle and the foot had jumped up to where the head should be. In the midst of this, new paranoia arose. What if Ma had run outside barefoot? Was she wearing both sandals? Were her socks matched? Had she changed her clothes, or was she still in her night suit? Eek! Did she have a bra on? And did she bring the car keys? Oh Lord, did she lock the door? Should I tell the neighbors to check and fasten a lock on the door? Where did I put my phone? Did I pull the chain over or no? Is the gas off? The faucet? The balcony door? Did I even open it? Sunglasses? Money? Oof, money! There's going to be a horrible fish stench. I wasn't able to get the garbage out. She mentally inspected countless crimes. Were her belly and back in the proper places and all knobs and locks properly turned? Usually they were, as happens even in stormy moments because moments are creatures of habit in their own ways. Fingers turn on the gas, then if the brain is all upside down, they'll start to itch and turn it off again, automatically, without even registering it. And feet that have emerged from the house will not press forward until the lock has been secured. Pulled on once just to make sure it's secured properly. Yes, done. Among these mental somersaults, she reached the gate. She couldn't perform the real turn back because she had to fly to the police station. The chowkidar left off warming himself by the open fire and stood to open the gate. Betty drove the car out and thought about how this was the same time of the day they used to drive out of the gate and turn right to go to the school, and how there was a small bazaar there where they would see Idia warming herself by the fire and setting out large green bundles of greens from her fields, spinach, fenugreek, batua, cholai, dil, chana. In the darkness of dawn, and arranging them on her cart. When we got home from school, we would run over there to watch her weighing out the greens. The weighing pan with the weight so high and the one with the greens so low. And we were wearing long quilted coats, eating chilgose Amma had stuffed into our pockets, which you don't see around anymore, nor such weighing or weights, nor Amma. She drove on smartly, said something to the guard, and she drove out. She cast a backward glance as though looking back to see if everything still looked so ghostly. The holika had burnt. A pang arose. But that was a childhood time, a childhood home, a childhood bonfire. The now one would burn some day soon. I'm mixing up this place and that place. She jerked her head towards the road, as though saying, farewell. Now you will no longer be you, nor I, as if to say, this ebbing night will rise now in such a day that will be new. Barre was also in tailspin. First he pulled his trousers on over his pajama, when he had meant to wear pants with a kurta. Then he shrieked, "The driver doesn't come this early," because Sushila had handed him the key to the government vehicle. For a few moments, in which every instant seemed uncommonly long, the key to the private car played hide and seek. But here we go, found it. He didn't have the presence of mind to comb his hair, so he came out with the two knobby horns that grew from each side of his head early in the morning, screaming, "Hurry up! Otherwise come with the driver!" And he ran outside, then ran back in to the puja room, and lit the lamp, bowed his head, and then went back out and turned the engine on. His wife called after him, "Stop! I am coming!" But she was walking more sensibly. She had washed her face, put on her sari, filled a thermos with hot tea, put biscuits, apples, bananas, a knife in a small bag, and had Amma's shawl on her arm. She gave instruction as she left for what to do in the kitchen, and to make Amma's bedroom and bathroom sparkle and change the sheets. Turn the geyser on, the small rug slipped, so take it away and put down the jute carpet instead. And the flower pots the gardener had set out yesterday. Tell him to get the movers to pack them on it in front of him. Understand? Run and get Amma's comb, or any comb. Tell the gardener to put a nice bouquet in the blue vase and set it in her room. You understand? Yes, the blue, round one. There's a half moon carved along the top. It's glass. Understand? Not the terracotta one, the picture-shaped one. Got it? What were they saying on the phone? That a small woman has been found. Small or old? They said she has a cane that unfolds click, click, click. Oh goodness, Amma. She has forgotten names. Oh, Amma. Where's the police station? It should be right here. How did they find it? We can't seem to. What was that smile? Could anybody say? No, nobody, not even me. Had I been asked, which I won't be, because I have already had my scene and scooted out of the way. It was just that type of smile. The rest of what happened is all a matter of conjecture. There were only two holes in the wall, one going in, one going out. Threading a breath through, could she then be taken out of the other side, and click, 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 unfolding the cane with a flutter and whoosh, out the gate? Why not? There was some suspicion later that Ma had had some sort of goal, based on what Rosie Bua said. Having accomplished that goal, she had turned back, and that's where the confusion had set in. She went past gate number 52 and walked along, the gate receding behind her with every step. A woman, exhausted after years of subsuming her own rhythm to that of others, lying in bed for months, hanging on a breath which alone is hers, and after turning her back on everyone, she has started to recognize it somewhat, and, granted, a cane had also come her way, which could be turned into the wishing tree when extended. And anyway, Even witches fly on canes like brooms. So Ma was this Amma, who for so many years had remained immersed in her motherhood, who had now forgotten everyone and everything. Is this not a birth or a rebirth? And what newborn comes out a toddling? Don't they have to learn how to crawl and then to toddle? And the newborn gets lost, cries, smiles, does it not? And ho, Ma smiled that smiled. Beyond Gate 52 come civil servants' bungalows, one after another, some of which have visible numbers, others where the numbers are obscured by vine pillars, pipes, and after you pass 53 and 54, you can go on to 1053 and 1054. And after that, you really have no idea. And you think, what am I even doing? And what do I want from life? And the weather too is such that it makes you shiver. And the bed has slowly, but surely, made you forget how to walk. Let's just say that it was the cane that kept Ma upright, for everything inside her was steadily collapsing, one thing at a time, bit by bit, breath by breath, all understanding, all experience, all knowledge. She came out of a gate, and then there was the next one, and beyond that the next, and so on, lurching, bent over, growing smaller into the void, empty, lost, flying along, so that some children thought of Holi when they saw her, even though the season for that had already occurred, and they smeared her face with a white varnish. But according to Sudhir Chandra, good people wander about full of hope in bad times. Bura waqt अच्छे log. So one passerby saw her and thought, something is up with this lady stumbling alone with her cane, wearing a bizarre baggy garment, and she's laughing like a mad woman who doesn't realize who can stop laughing after you start, or that it's more fitting to cry on certain occasions. He scolded the young pranksters. What are you up to? What is this paint? And went up to the small woman and asked, what do you need, Mataji? Water, said Ma, her lips dry and white. What do you seek, Mataji? Gate, she said, but now how could she tell what she was saying and what she could say when she asked the number? Who is at home, Mataji? Son, he said. What does he do, Mataji? Officer, she said. Your husband, Mataji? Anwar, she said. Officer Anwar. Who, what, why? This fellow hadn't a clue, especially when the Mataji's speech was so crazed. The passerby helped her to the nearby police station, which was not the one Betty had called. But as we know, police. Hamesha aapki, aapke liye. The police, always for you, with you. Got in touch with their station, and everyone learned that a Mataji of 80 or thereabouts was missing, and a marvelous golden cane had carried her away in a host of rainbow butterflies, and that this incident concerned house number 52. They all raced over and stormed into the police station at once. Amma raised her eyes, all curled up like a fetus, a gaze that emanated from a great distance, as though rising from ancient births, crossing over the hardship, pain, wandering, sticking, uprooting bumps on the journey, arriving at this incarnation, in an ancient aching body. Then a smile arose from the fatigue residing in every follicle, in every joint. That smile, when the lips tremble, part gently in a smile, in which faith, happiness, surprise, recognition all flicker up in that very moment. That smile, Amma's, the single match which lights up the smiles of the entire family. No, there's no use summoning me. I won't be able to describe that either. The smile of a newborn who sees the world for the first time, and for the first time looks at another. 43. The heart breaks. If a little girl looks at you and smiles, you are her world. If your mother looks at you like that, all is lost. You melt into a puddle. Such a simple emotion, so straightforward, not an ounce of artifice, innocent, simple, trusting. Dew, a far off star, a single point on a rainbow, the caress of the breeze. You just collapse in a heap right there. Shall we go? Let's go. As if she has been smoking. Take that stinky smoking man's smelly blanket off my shoulder. Wrap her up in her own shawl. Come on, let's go. How small Amma is. Just one handspan above my waist. When did that happen? Was she pruning herself inside the quilt or something? The white paint smeared on her face makes her look a withered old joker, wiped with a wet hanky. The little girl whimpered, fidgeted, still looked a joker. Amma kept coughing. They stood amidst the swirling packing dust. The boxes had grown into a mountain. The door was open. Amma's gaze foolish. It's so dusty, Bahu apologized. Please come in here, Amma. Back into the wall room? Amma reluctant. The bed is there. Ma's eyes, devoid of connection, she sits on the edge of the bed as though about to rise. How her feet have swollen. The veins seem ready to burst. The coughing fits won't let up. Give her something warm to drink. Something warm. Amma, you have got cold. There's so much dust. Why don't you put your head down here? Let me massage her feet a bit. Oh my, look how tangled her hair is. Just like a sadhu's matted mane. Don't worry, I'll slowly comb it out for her. Everyone set about folding her up, smoothing her wrinkles as though she were a piece of fabric. Don't ask how she had passed her days and nights. Don't think about where she lay, where she went. How could you have left, Amma? Amma, lie down. Sleep a bit. Straighten out your legs. Oh, see how tiny she is. She really has grown smaller. Close your eyes. Intently gazing. Close them. You'll feel more comfortable. They were still open, so lost. Bare stood aside, watching. Ma is tired. She has forgotten. Was she telling them the wrong name? That she was Tara or Chanda? Husband's name too. The policeman said she said it was Anwar. Husband's name. No, that is not her husband's name. Her tongue is tired too. She must have used the Urdu word for husband, shauhar. Or maybe she said officer. She had the cane with her. It was the cane that got her recognized. Yes, an old lady leaning on a cane. Bahu stood by with a spoon. Please take a drop. Your mouth is dry. Betty moistened a cotton swab with cleanser and started removing the white paint. Perhaps even now everyone believed they were the one doing everything, while everyone else was just sitting around. They were preparing Ma for a new life. Betty smoothed back Ma's hair, leant over and looked attentively to make sure there was no white near the roots. She swabbed with the soft cotton. Ma's eyes opened, like a peaceful cow. She is being bathed. And then she said, let's go, as if she were lowing. Ma tried to straighten up, coughing, and a storm of sympathy arose within them all. Where had she been? What had she endured? And at this age? Let her sleep. But he kept watching. Amma needs rest. Until then she won't be herself. Right now? Said Ma, straightening up amid coughing. Said to Betty. Who knows if Betty even realized later that right now means now. The way no is new. At this moment it was only Ma's meek smile and foolish gaze that struck her, and she blurted out, yes, there is so much dust here. Come to my house now. From her point of view, she had pulled off a marvelous feat. She would manage to strike a blow at the people living here. She had demonstrated the attraction of her own place, and she had brought peace to an exhausted body, mind, beloved soul. Sort of like Joginder Pal's character in Sleepwalkers, who insists he is in Lucknow when he is in Karachi. So don't upset him with the truth. Show mature sympathy and just agree with everything she says. Later, Bahu was definitely angry and sad, and huge tears certainly did come splashing down from her eyes. And she said, or didn't, but from her every pore radiated the accusation that we are the ones who have done for her our whole lives, shouldered the responsibility, put up with all manner of compromises, in good times and bad, without complaint, and now, in her final years, she's leaving us just to give us a bad name, cane in hand. Whose final years? This is yet to be known. A question like dry leaves floating up in the sky, like those other questions that learned and self-assured folk give fighty answers to. Like she must have said, Shauhar or officer. Why would anyone say Anwar? 44. Some say this is a new age. Others say that when it comes to women, it's always a new age. New age, meaning things have changed for women. Things always change for women. Women are no longer in the roles they used to be in. They are always in new roles. They have started coming out. They have always done that. They go inside. Always. And always, at least once, every woman, whether this one or that one, whether small or big, finds herself at the door, one foot poised in the air, like a dancer striking a mudra, a pose, in order to re-enter that home or that door which she has renounced and already left far behind, asking herself at that moment, is this my world in which I am setting foot, or is it that which is receding behind me, where I had gone, or whence I have just come? I'd just come to peek in on my old familiars for a moment or two, that's it. Also to rejoice that I no longer belong there. So what is this sudden disconcertedness? I wonder what I belong to what lies behind my back, or what is before, my belly. I'm in one place, my actions in another, ahead or behind. Tell me, O Lord, where am I? The food falters a moment, floating in the air, like the hovering that occurs just a moment before dancing. At the open door, as though uncertain for one moment, should I go ahead or should I turn back? And what is ahead, and what's been left behind? And what shall I do? What will happen? This moment also increases the confusion, because daughters who believe they have gone outside, that they have left, at that very moment when they are going inside just to visit someone in there, someone from inside, Bahu, for instance, that very person brushes by the daughter on her way out, rebuck askew, the daughter is entering, the daughter-in-law is exiting. From head to toe, her whole body is cast into a quandary, which limb to turn where, and she loses her equilibrium. Because the new age is tangled with the old, it needs time to detangle its trusses and find a new way to style its bun. But we think the order of our life has become separate. We are different. We can't lean on the old walls. The knot of the old shoelace is gone, and there is a new horizon in our embrace. Then why are these walls closing in on me? The daughter assesses her wrists and fingers. She touches her forehead to make sure it's free, happy. No one has colored it. There is no tickly, no bindi. Rather, sister-in-law has just brushed past, sindoor erupting like red lava from the volcano that is her brow. But she is outside. I am in topsy-turvy. She stands here like this, baffled, time and again. Perhaps the cushions that lie ahead are a place where she can rest her exhausted hindquarters. The laces, straps, buckles, which appear clear and separate in the pages of history, and the slogans of feminists lie here in a jumble of odd shapes. Like you think you recognize Reeboks, but seeing them running races sometimes and beneath a sari at others, your brain blows a fuse. And for now, it's the opinion of elders and of Bade that Beti has nothing to worry about. She's alone, free of the responsibilities of marriage, home, children. In fact, she is a freelancer, so she is free of every responsibility. Imagine such a fate where one is free and a lancer to boot, mistress of her own time, doesn't have to go to the office and slog from 10 to 5 or get stuck in traffic jams or marmalades. The money's good too. Sleep all day if you want, stay up all night, and sit anywhere tapping out articles on your computer. Not in the mood today? Try tomorrow. No one to dismiss you from your job. If Amma feels like going to her place, what's the harm? It will be a break, and Betty will also have family around. They'll have fun there a few days, the two of them. No problem for anyone. We'll fix up the flat and then bring Amma back. Yes, it would be better if we had some checks signed first. But Sid will go. I'll send him over. Right now, Amma is weary. But weary or fit, prone or risen, there are still the same four cardinal directions: north, south, east, west. Shiva to the north, the head of the corpse, must face south, the sunrise in the east. In the west, only the west, forbidden to the rest. All for the best. The air flows between all these four directions, but this is also the abode of suffocation. All romping, playing, diplomacy, politics here. And then Vastu Shastra and Feng Shui maintain that we must help energy flow properly. The desirous and the ambitious got busy working it out, so that you can know health, happiness, and why leave out wealth? But just as you don't need to be a music critic to name that tune or read the Natya Shastra to be an expert in art, so too, even without getting a Bhumi Pujan or handing money to a Vastu Shastra Feng Shui expert, you can create perfect harmony between air, light, food, and water. Art lovers know this. Art specialists know this. That the heart is the true major which can tell if the gate is amiss or the gradient a tilt. But enough about art. Ramanujan was a mathematician, yet unaware of how the detangling occurred. His answers were correct, but he was unaware of technique. Of course, Betty is no Ramanujan, nor is she Amrita Shergill. But would it be wrong to say that without getting all involved in directional truths and directional auspiciousness, or even in indirectional inauspiciousness, she had come up with a lovely conflux of flow in her home, and that she now went there with her mother? Interval. Or another life, or the life of another. The terminology requires clarification, but whether or not clarity arrives, Holi had come and gone. The streets had been scrubbed of color, powders and paints all wiped from faces now. But yes, the white eyebrows of the old gardener were still pink.